dive into what organic wines mean. Unfortunately, there's no universal definition, so every region and every country will have their own. However, the main goal is to protect the natural resources that are available. This translates to wines requiring, or certifications requiring, usage of organic materials. So that's limited to no usage of things like herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, even antibiotics if they have farm animals on the property. Because ultimately that gets into the soil, that gets into the grape, and that gets into your wine. So while there's no universal definition, there is a lot of good to be done for the wineries that are focused on organic agriculture. While there's limited use to chemicals, in an organic certification, wineries are still allowed to use more organic versions of some of these more chemical-like substances in order to make their wine. For example, there is no organic substitute for sulfur. Now, sulfur is a natural byproduct of winemaking, so there is no wine that cannot contain sulfur. It is impossible. However, a lot of wineries will add sulfur in order to make the wine more shelf stable, so that it can, maintain not only getting to your table and tasting fine, but also aging. As well as yeast. So wineries can use commercially purchased yeast if it is organic, and they can still be considered part of an organic certification. Now there's 3 major certifications that you see on the left side of your screen. The top one is for the US specifically. And that, for example, they're not allowed to use any additional sulfur. However, in the EU, which is that leaf symbol you see below the USDA organic certification, they're allowed certain parts per million. So anywhere from very, very small, minuscule amounts to a little bit more in terms of that shelf stability that we were talking about earlier. So sulfur is allowed, but that is mostly because there's no organic substitute for the material. When you see a one that says made organically or made from organic grapes, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're organic certified, because what that translates to is that they are practicing organic philosophy in the vineyard, but they might be using inorganic materials in the cellar, and so they're not allowed to have an organic certification. This does get a little tricky though, because there's a philosophy of organic winemaking that predates all of these certifications that started popping up about 10 years ago. So imagine all of these historical wineries that have had 5, 6, maybe 10 generations of winemaking, and they've been practicing organic forever. They don't necessarily feel that they should buy a certification as a marketing tool to prove the work that they've been doing for centuries. However, it does help with marketing because it does translate to the audience, that you can find organically made wines without having to look at the website or ask a store clerk. So unfortunately, because the standards are still trying to become more clearly defined and they differ by different countries and regions, and at this point, you should be asking your store clerk or someone at the winery or looking on the website to see if they are practicing anything organic in order to support them. Because at the end of the day, this might be a bit of a muddled term, but it is still contributing to helping us mitigate those climate change issues. So now you know about organic wines. Let's put your knowledge to the test.